Hey guys, Tranquillity here. I just want to start this video off by wishing you guys over at Daybreak a Merry Christmas. I think you guys are doing a wonderful job with this game, and I hope that you guys continue to keep up the good work, as I really enjoy playing Planetside on the PS4, and I'm very grateful that you brought it over to the console. I'm a long-standing PC player myself, and yeah, it's just a really good experience to experience it on my console rather than with a gamepad rather than a mouse and keyboard. Right now, so getting to the point of this video, so I thought I'd make this because essentially I feel like Liberators need a little bit of love, guys. I mean, there's quite a lot of game-breaking issues with Liberators that just have not been addressed since the release of this game, and some of these issues have been with us like since the beta onwards and never really improved. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and this is like the first time I've commentated over a video, so forgive me if there's any me repeating myself or anything like that. This is kind of out of my comfort zone, but I figured that if somebody doesn't mention anything about these issues, then I don't think anything will get done about them. I mean, not that that's anything to do with you guys at Daybreak's fault. It's just I'm not even sure if anyone's had the time to report these issues. So we'll go ahead and get started. So number one, frame rate when piloting the Liberator. Now I have to start off by saying that this only applies when you're in the pilot seat of the Liberator, and there's a small but brief way to fix it for a few seconds by simply switching seat and switching back, but it will come back within the next 3 or 4 seconds, and if anything it comes back worse than it originally was. But what I'm saying about this is, let's say the game runs at, I'm going to take a guess, at 30 frames per second regularly. Well, when piloting a Liberator, generally you're getting less than that. You're looking at 20 to 25 frames on the best of times, but really the point of me addressing this particular issue is because sometimes, guys, like especially during peak hours of the game, like at 6 o'clock GMT my time, when a lot of people get home in Europe and they want to play some Planetside, it's just flying a Liberator around is almost like it's impossible to do with the frame rate how it is. Like you can fly into any kind of populated area with a fight of like 12 to 24 players, and even at that, like 12 to 24 is not that many players for the game to be like rendering, and it still struggles when you're piloting the Liberator. It's worth noting that gunners do not experience any of the lag that I experience as the pilot, and I've been flying the Liberator around now since the beta on PS4 and for a lot longer than that on PC in the past, and yeah, I mean, you can see right now at this point in the clip, look how bad that frame rate gets. I mean, it's you can see it instantly disappears the minute you get out of the aircraft, and like this video, just keep an eye and an open mind out for the rest of the video on what I was trying to explain here. Is just watch the frame rate. It's actually doesn't look as bad as it actually is when you're playing the game. I've noticed that on my recordings it looks a lot smoother than it actually is on the screen in game. But yeah, so that's issue number one out of the way. So moving on. So issue number two would be flak phalanx towers. That obviously you can find these on most bases with any aircraft landing pads, and a number of other bases littered around the map, like tech plants, amp stations, all those sort of places. But the main issue with this is, right, whenever I'm just going to go ahead and say this, right, you don't have to actually be getting shot at by a flat gun in a Liberator for it to affect you. The minute you can hear a flat gun, even if it's like really like close to the edge of render range on your screen, if you can hear it firing, it affects your frame rate. Now I've tested this with a number of my outfit members, and it seems to be directly related to a lot of the lag. I mean, I know I said that there's no real cause, because I mean a lot of the time there isn't. You're in an area like this place here where there's no flat guns firing, but the frame rate is just extremely bad when there's any kind of flat gun firing. I mean that applies to Maxes when they use burster cannons on their arms. That sets it off. Phalanx, you know, sorry, not spear phalanx. You know, flak phalanx towers on bases. It also applies even when like Sunderers equip walkers or rangers, or harassers equip rangers to their vehicles. It all seems to be related to bad frame rate. Now I don't know whether that's the explosions, like the particle effects, causing it, but there's definitely something to look into, because it just all adds to dropping your frame rate down to a certain point where it almost becomes like impossible to even see what you're doing. And I've had a lot of experiences ruined, especially like dogfighting in the air with other, you know, Liberators or ESFs, and it really does take away from the current dogfight that I'd be in, because the frame rate gets so bad I have no choice but to leave the area and disengage and just pull out in any direction that I feel is safe, you know. And it shouldn't be that way. Like a flat gun's firing, I should know about it. I can hear it, you know, maybe I can see the traces, but it should not be making my frame rate drastically drop down, you know, the way it has been. So okay, moving on to the next point. So issue number 3 is a bit of a strange one, and the only thing that I can even refer to saying that was anything similar to this was, if you remember in the beta, the Vanguard turret used to shake around a lot and, you know, all over the place. Like the actual turret on top used to just do some really strange things. I'm sure you guys at Daybreak remember the issues you had with that. Well, this one is solely referring to the walker on the tail of the Liberator. Now, this doesn't seem to happen with the Drake. But with the walker, it just, like, if nobody's in it, this is right, you'll see it yourself. So it's maybe at some point in the video, the walker just starts shaking around violently, and it makes the entire, you know, Liberator start looking like it's shaking around. And again, I swear this also has an effect on the frame rate. So I'm not sure how you guys go about fixing those sorts of things, but it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. But this point also follows on to my next point. So issue number 4, again referring to the walker, is the shots that you fire out of the walker when you're in the seat, obviously to fire it, is that the shots don't actually line up with the reticule. It seems to me that it kind of lines up to the bottom and the left of the reticule. Now, I've had a lot of people gunning for me, and they've all used the walker on the rear and agreed with me that something's not quite right with the alignment of the gun. At one stage you did a patch, and it didn't actually mention anything to do with the walker, and it was maybe some 3 months or 4 months back. But essentially, what happened was it fixed, you know, magically, and then you had to do some sort of hot fix, and it kind of just went back to normal straight afterwards. So again, I don't know what if that's worth, you know, looking into, but like if you compare the walker on the Liberator to like the walker on a Galaxy, which is, you know, pretty much identical, it kind of, you know, it really needs to be looked at, because the walker's like your main air deterrent. It puts constant pressure on anything that's chasing after you, and without the accuracy of, you know, the walker, it's pretty much useless, and it really just needs to be lined up with the reticule. So maybe can you please take a look at that? That would be brilliant. Okay, so moving on to the next point. Now, number 5. This one doesn't really matter too much to me, but I know that a lot of people would like to get use out of this weapon, so I figured that it should make the list. Now, the hyena on the tail of the Liberator, I've used this with a number of my outfit members that used to use this gun when they used to play, and I noticed straight away that there was some sort of issue with the way it works. So what I'm referring to exactly is that when you're shooting, like, you know, coyotes on an ESF, you have to kind of lead your target to get the missiles to like track their target. So with the hyenas on the back of the lib, it doesn't seem to work like that. If you lead your target, it very rarely actually even hits them, which is, I remember using this thing on PC, and that was how I'm sure it was intended to be used. Now, what it seems to be on PS4 is that all you need to do with the hyena to make it hit, and this is not very reliable way of using it either, but is literally just to treat it like, I don't know how to explain it, but aiming at your target constantly and firing, regardless of where it looks like the missile goes, tends to be more successful than leading your target. And a lot of other people agreed with me that it's almost like you have to keep your reticules on the target at all times, and then the rockets will kind of guide their way to it and hit. Now, if that's the way that it's intended to work, then okay, then you know, that's I guess it's my mistake on this one. But from a lot of people I've spoken to about it, they all feel the same way, that it's something's not quite right with it. So okay, so we'll move on to the next point. These two aren't as very important as the rest, but I still figured they're worth mention. So number 6 is that the spur is missing from the game. Now, I know that we don't have a free look system implemented into the PS4 version, so I'm not quite sure how the spur would work regardless. But I do remember in the beta that I was playing on VS, I think, in the beta, and the spur was unlocked as a weapon in the beta to be able to be used. And I, without having to free look around, I still enjoyed using the spur because I found the reticule was just much more user friendly than the default gun for the Liberator. So again, I just wanted to see if the spur getting added in is something that's going to happen in future. I mean, I'm sure it is, but I guess that kind of aligns with the whole free looking aspect as well. I'm not really sure if that's possible to do on a PS4, but I guess we'll wait and see for that one. So moving on to the final point. So number 7 is the Bulldog. Now again, this is kind of a request more than an issue, but you really need to add the Bulldog in as a tail gun for the Liberator. I mean, it's on PC, I'm aware of that, and I'm sure that you're planning on adding it into the PS4 version at some point. But lots of other vehicles have been updated, like the harassers and the tanks and all that. They've all got new exciting weapons, like the Mjolnir and the Gatekeeper and the Aphelion and things like that. And really, the Liberator's not had anything new added to it since the game came out of beta into release, and it's something I'm really personally looking forward to. And I know a lot of other people that fly or gun for Liberators would enjoy that gun being in the game. So again, please, I'm hoping that will be added in future. So finally, I'd just like to take a moment to thank you guys for watching this video, and I just kind of hope that maybe it highlighted some things you guys weren't kind of aware of over there at Daybreak, and hopefully that means that now it's been brought to your attention that something could possibly be done about it in future. This was Tranquility. Thanks for watching the video, guys.